You've likely been trapped in this exact conversation. You're facing someone speaking incredibly loudly, acting completely certain, but making absolutely zero logical sense. Society often brushes this off as a personality flaw, like arrogance, stubbornness, or a bad attitude. Psychology reveals a darker scientific reality. These behaviors signal a profound phenomenon in how the brain processes information and handles its own cognitive limits. This chart shows actual knowledge plotted against perceived confidence. A massive spike in certainty occurs at the very lowest levels of understanding. This is the Dunning-Kruger Effect, a cognitive bias where individuals with low ability overestimate their own intelligence. Recognizing this effect changes how we view these encounters. We are witnessing a mind completely trapped in its own blind spot. Realizing you are bad at a task requires the baseline intelligence to understand what good actually looks like. When a brain lacks the capacity to measure its own incompetence, it fills the gap with blind, unearned confidence. This manufactured confidence hardens into a shield that deflects any incoming data points that might correct the error. Weak minds process the act of learning as a direct personal threat to a fragile ego. Acknowledging more information would require admitting they don't already know everything. To avoid this discomfort, the brain deploys a defense mechanism called cognitive rigidity. This rigidity forces an absolute inability to think flexibly. The person views the world through a black and white lens, struggling to handle nuance or multiple perspectives. This rigid mindset manifests through distinct symptoms. They get bored incredibly easily when presented with new concepts. They aggressively avoid unfamiliar or challenging ideas. And they fiercely insist on sticking only to familiar and comfortable routines. This unshakable certainty acts as a neurological defense mechanism designed to protect the individual from the reality of their own limitations. This black and white worldview eventually meets resistance from opposing opinions or undeniable facts. Logical reasoning and calm debate require high cognitive effort. When challenged, their brains effectively short-circuit under the pressure. They lack the emotional control to pause and think, instead confusing a simple disagreement with direct disrespect and reacting entirely on impulse. To handle the consequences of the resulting poor decisions, they rely on a psychological mechanism known as an external locus of control. As this flowchart shows, the brain bypasses personal choice when facing a failure. It routes the cause towards external factors, like bad luck or society, removing the individual's choices from the equation. Because they react with hostility to feedback and shift blame for every failure, they lack the tools to learn from mistakes, creating a self-reinforcing loop of poor outcomes. Low intelligence in this framework is a fundamental flaw in how the brain processes reality. The Dunning-Kruger effect creates a significant obstacle. The lower a person's cognitive ability, the less likely they are to perceive their own flaws. They remain in a comfortable bubble of imagined brilliance, isolated from the information that could help them grow. A highly intelligent person views failure as a roadmap. They look at a setback and ask specifically how they can improve. Countering this cognitive bias requires relentless curiosity. Growth happens when a person admits ignorance and asks why to figure out how the world works. To stay curious and avoid the trap of unearned confidence, hit the subscribe button and join our community of deep thinkers. True genius relies on the psychological courage to realize how much there is left